This chapter focuses on community corrections, a branch of corrections that provides supervision and services to offenders outside of jail or prison. The importance of community corrections becomes clear when we look at the numbers. Far too many people are under criminal justice supervision for all of them to be placed behind bars. Without alternatives, the system would quickly become overwhelmed and grind to a halt. Community corrections offers those alternatives, ensuring accountability while reducing pressure on prisons. Community corrections refers to programs that supervise and support offenders outside jail or prison, such as diversion, restitution, probation, parole, halfway houses, and temporary release. Criminologist David Duffy identifies three types: community-run, community-placed, and community-based programs. These programs focus on rehabilitation, with staff balancing law enforcement and social worker responsibilities. Community corrections are essential due to limited resources. Without them, courts and correctional facilities would be overwhelmed by the volume of cases. Probation is a court-imposed sentence allowing offenders to remain in the community under supervision, instead of serving time in jail, provided they follow set rules. It applies to those found or pleading guilty, and is the most common criminal sentence in the U.S. Unlike probation, diversion removes individuals from further legal processing and puts them in alternative programs, either before or after trial. The main types of probation include informal and unsupervised probation, straight probation, suspended sentence probation, split sentence, shock probation, residential probation, community control probation. Probation agencies aim to support courts with sentencing, protect communities through supervision, and help offenders rehabilitate. The roots of modern probation trace back to John Augustus, a Boston shoemaker who, beginning in the 1840s, supervised minor offenders as an alternative to incarceration. Massachusetts passed the first probation law in 1879. By 1920, most states permitted probation, and all states had statutes by 1957. The federal probation system began in 1925. Probation is managed differently across the U.S. Some states, like Kentucky, handle probation at the state level within corrections departments, while others, such as California and Indiana, manage it locally. Some states use a combination of both approaches. The pre-sentence investigation, PSI, is conducted by probation agencies to review an adult offender's history, family, and character after conviction, aiding the court in sentencing. Findings are presented in a PSI report. When probation is given, the court records its terms and duration. Probation conditions specify allowed and prohibited actions for offenders. General conditions apply to all, while special conditions address individual circumstances, often involving treatment. Restitution, where offenders compensate victims or the community, is now commonly included. Parole refers to a discretionary prison release mechanism, permitting inmates to re-enter society prior to the completion of their full sentences, as determined by a governing board or authority. The term also encompasses the supervisory measures implemented following release into the community. Parole is distinct from probation in two principal respects. 1. Parole is not imposed as a sentencing measure by a court, and 2. Parole applies to individuals exiting incarceration. It comprises two key facets: parole release and parole supervision. The predominant forms of parole are straight parole and residential parole. The four primary objectives of parole are as follows: to ensure public safety within the community, to foster offender rehabilitation and reintegration, to alleviate and manage prison overcrowding, to regulate inmate conduct. Similar to probation, parole originated from earlier correctional practices. Notably, the ticket of leave system was innovated in the mid-1800s by Captain Alexander Maconochie near Australia and Sir Walter Crofton in Ireland. In the United States, parole, alongside indeterminate sentencing, was first introduced during the 1870s at the Elmira Reformatory in New York under the guidance of Zebulon Brockway. The administration of parole encompasses two main components: the Parole Board, and the Parole Field Service Agency. Each state maintains responsibility for its individual parole system. As with probation, practices related to parole administration exhibit considerable variation across jurisdictions nationwide. Intermediate sanctions offer penalties more punitive than probation but less severe than imprisonment, focusing on retribution, deterrence, and incapacitation. Intensive supervision probation and parole, ISP, impose stricter conditions and closer monitoring than traditional programs, often selecting offenders based on risk assessments. Key features include small caseloads, frequent contact and drug testing, curfews, employment or restitution requirements, mandatory treatment, and supervision fees. Net widening occurs when programs are used for unintended offenders, resulting in harsher sanctions than they would otherwise receive. Day reporting centers require offenders to report regularly for supervision and treatment, serving those who would otherwise be incarcerated. Structured fines are adjusted based on an offender's ability to pay, unlike tariff fines which are fixed regardless of financial circumstances. Home confinement restricts offenders to their homes except for approved absences and is more punitive than ISP. Its use increased with the advent of electronic monitoring via GPS and RF technology. Halfway houses provide a controlled, community-based alternative to jail or prison, accommodating both offenders and other populations such as individuals with mental health or substance issues.